So my first question would be, what inspired you to become a filmmaker?
But yeah, the thing that inspired me to be a filmmaker, um, it's a long answer, but I will give you a like a shorter version of it.
You can give me long
So
answer as well, no problem.
yeah, but yeah, I was studying IT at that time, and I was thinking of pursuing IT as a career, but I never wanted to do that really. But I just got to that point where like I was stuck in something that I didn't want to do. So yeah, then I thought like I should go for something that I can be more passionate about, like give a bit of meaning for my life. So I thought like it should be something creative, then like your mind would be more engaged, and you can find some meaning to it. So yeah, that's how I ended up in filmmaking. At that point I didn't know where to go or where to start. Then I decided to wait for 3 more years so I could join a film school later. And after the film school, I came back to India and started making independent films in Kerala.
You went to Sydney, Australia.
Yeah, I was in Sydney at that time. Yeah,
How long was the course?
the course was 2 years.
Okay. And what was your experience there, sir? What did you learn there?
I really enjoyed my time in the film school because probably that's the first time I enjoyed going to a school or a college for the first time. Like even though I studied for more than 20 years or so before that, that is the first time I could really enjoy going, getting up in the morning and, be excited to go to school. So that was the first time that happened. And yeah, it was justified also because later we had amazing teachers with different ideas. Sometimes their opinions were different from each other's, but still we got something out of them. Then there are my classmates with like who introduced me to great filmmakers. The filmmakers that I admire now. They are the ones who introduced me to great films for the first time. So it was a great experience overall, and we had a lot of equipments available there all the time, so we could just go out and learn using them and make mistakes, and nobody really judged us. At that point we were free to make mistakes, and then the teachers would give us a lot of feedbacks, mostly criticisms, and we made a lot of errors. And so slowly we acquired a taste kind of, and developed our own like personal taste. And I think that kind of training takes many years. Maybe like I sometimes I even wonder whether I started making my first film a bit too early, immediately after the film school, was probably too early for me. um, but like doesn't matter. Like you are growing every year and every day. And after a few years you are you might even question the decisions you had earlier. But but it's all part of the journey, I think.
So when you told your parents that you want to become a filmmaker and you want to go to film school, were they okay with it?
Oh, I was at a certain age where my parents didn't have much control over me. Like so I was more of an independent person, not completely independent, but like I was semi-independent kind of at that point at least. So there was a little bit of struggle there. Like it's very maybe these days the parents are a bit more open to it, but these things happened more than 10 years ago, so they were not really open to that idea at all. So Especially, like I'm talking about my mother and other relatives, because my father passed away much earlier. So and my mother, if and she didn't say, like, she wasn't like fighting against me or anything, but I remember, like, and I remember a much earlier instance where she didn't really, you know, didn't approve at all. But later, at a later point, she even supported me, with my first film and all. She even financially supported the film. So there is a gradual change in her also. So you know, I think it's all part of the journey, and I can't really blame them.
So before making your first film, did you assisted someone? How did you find your first job? Did you assisted somewhere?
No, it's after the film school. I went to, I traveled in Kerala, and I met a lot of independent filmmakers, tried to understand what they were doing, how they started. Some of them didn't even have a professional training and all, but I really liked the fact that they were still, trying to do something, and that too something different from the, industry based films. So they were all of very much of inspiration for me. And but some of them even were ready to collaborate when I made the first film. If you look at the credits of my first film, the cinematographer was Pradap Joseph. He is another independent filmmaker from Kerala. The editor is Shanavas Naranipuram. He's no more now, but at that time he was also an independent filmmaker in Kerala. Then there are so many other like film related people, or independent film related people who are associating with that film at that point. So yeah, it is that environment was there. So I was quite lucky, to be honest.
So your first three films, Shavam with and 1956 Central Travancore, all were black and white films. Was that intentional, and how was why was that so?
Yeah, it was by accident that I ended up making the first film into a black and white film. But after the first film, I really liked that idea. Then I wanted to make the next film in black and white. I wanted to get better at that medium. Then after with also, I did the if you look at with the landscape, it had more landscapes in it. It had minimal camera movements and all. But at that stage, um, yeah, even the black and white employed had certain characteristics. But when I went to 1956 Central Travancore, it's a bit more contrasty. The lights are much more controlled. I had a better budget, so I could do different things even with the black and white medium. So, and I wanted to get better at it as well.
So with is a crowd-funded film. Is that correct?
The second one, yeah, with was a crowdfunded film.
What is crowd-funded film, sir? Like, can you explain? Like,
Yeah, so yeah, I didn't have a producer first of all, so we decided to, at that time I hadn't done the business with Shavam either, but I wanted to make the second film, so that's the reason we decided to go with crowdfunding, because some other filmmakers were also doing it. I had some examples in Kerala before and in India also, and there was a crowdfunding platform in India at that time. So many things were happening, and in our film school circles also, there were many people who were doing crowdfunding for films. So I decided to try that, and secure some money for with and it was an interesting experience, because the people who contributed were mostly the people who watched my first film. and they were not the people whom I expected it to be. They were the people I expected were my friends and family, mostly. But I didn't want to insist, or like force anyone into like helping me, or I didn't want to beg to anyone. But I all that I did was a couple of Facebook posts, and so many film lovers in Kerala. Yeah, they for the first time we got in touch, and they were ready to chip in a little bit of money. Sometimes not that small amount also. Some people even chipped in 20,000 and 25,000. Yeah, that's like, for me, that's a lot of money to just hand over to a random person who wants to make a movie. So yeah, there were so many well wishers, and those who wanted to see the cultural scenario in Kerala getting better, and they who trusted me with their money and all. So yeah, but still, it was not completely enough to make the film, whatever I could acquire from these people. So I had to chip in some my, like some personal funds as well. And eventually, it's a personal film, and it's a vision that you had in your mind, and like you can't, it's not so I had I so afterwards I had these questions about the like whether crowdfunding is a perfect model for filmmaking, or but I think it's all right, because like these people, you have proven at least to them that you can make a film, and you have a sample to show them. So I think it's all right. Yeah.
So how big was the crew for these films, like all three of them?
It varied, but I would say it's comparatively smaller. It's but for an independent film, I think that's quite sufficient. Like for my first film, I had like maybe a total of 15 people in the crew, and uh, fo- probably 50 people in the cast as well. So in total, around like between 50 and 60, I think. Yeah. But for my second film, I had the entire cast and crew was about 10 or 14, something like that at that point. And for my third film, it was a larger film. But even then, the crew number was like less than 15. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
And sir, what was the like approx budget for this film?
Um, but like the value for the currency has changed. You have to consider the fact that these films happened in 2015 and 17 and 19. So the first one was at that time we completed it for, I think, around 6 lakhs. So yeah, but right now I think if you convert, it would be much more than 6 lakhs, because the food was cheaper, the living expense was cheaper at that time. A lot of things were cheaper, and we didn't really pay for most of the actors at that time. We couldn't afford to. So they were they were all like voluntarily, they were volunteers rather than like uh, paid actors. Yeah, so yeah, you have to consider a lot of like consider the fact that like many people were not paid. Like I was not paid. Like it's not a proper model for filmmaking or anything. It was just like we just wanted to make it happen somehow. I wouldn't make a like film like that right now. Like I mean, I'm talking about the logistics of things, and the way people were underpaid and all. So I wouldn't do that now, because it's I think right now I think that everyone should be paid.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about your recent film, which will be released next week, this Friday.
Yeah.
So family, sir, can you tell me a little bit about what family is?
Yeah, family. See, since my first film, I have been dealing with themes like interpersonal relationships, especially in families, and how and the difference between the character, the persona that we portray in front of other people, and the real persona of people, or real personality of the people, or the real character of people. But or maybe there's not even a real character, like it's these are different personas we put in front of different people. So I was, like I've been trying to explore that idea for a while now. And this character, in family, his name is Sony, and he is a very, like, he has a very likable character in front of the society and in front of all the relatives and his friends. And like, he is a well wisher, he helps everyone, but there is something dark happening underneath, and he is very good at hiding things. But even when it is exposed, the film is all about how the institution of family handles it, and how that institution is actually controlled by the institution of religion. So religion has been a very strong motive in, several of my films. I had a childhood where, it was very very much controlled by the institution of religion. I grew up in a very orthodox family, who, like a Christian family, in Kerala. So all these elements have contributed towards making this film.
Sir, can you recommend some films, your favorite films and filmmakers?
Yeah, there are so many films that I like. I can give you a long list, but but like, if you ask me a bunch of films, rather more than the films, I would say filmmakers. Maybe, like, that's how I also uh, keep myself updated, or keep myself, rather than updation, like more like, uh, keep myself learning. So uh, I love the films of Rainer Werner Fassbinder, um, and like every film of his is, I think, is a film school in itself. And the aesthetically and thematically, and as and character wise, like, you have a lot of layers to look into his films. And even, like, the way he uses camera and lighting, it's still, it feels fresh, even though he made mostly in the 670s and all. So yeah, then another filmmaker would be Bergman's films. Like, each film is unique and different. At the same time, he is a very philosophical filmmaker, and his characters' psychology is so important. But, I think these are the two filmmakers I would probably compare with each other too. Like, even though their styles are very unique and different, Bergman and Fassbinder are in certain ways similar, I feel sometimes. Um, then there is um, then there are so many others, like Brasson is there, like, very obvious choice for his very unique way of filmmaking, minimal um, yeah, like, there is certain minimalism to the way he uses the medium. I love that, and though it's something, even though I don't believe in the terms like pure cinema and all, it's somewhat closer to that concept, I think. Or he is very genuine. Like that genuinity, that honesty is, and more than all these technical aspects, I think the emotion, if you allow yourself to emerge in Bresson's films, the emotional impact that lasts much longer than the duration of the film. Like you are left with those emotions for maybe several weeks or months. So I think that's very important. Um, Another filmmaker would be um, I really like this filmmaker. I haven't watched too many of his films, 3 or 4 films only, but I need to watch more. Maurice Piela, uh, French filmmaker. He is a lesser known filmmaker compared to the like filmmakers like Godard or Truffaut, but he's their contemporary, and and he made films a little later also. But his deep understanding of the characters, its significance, very remarkable, I think. And like there is certain uh, what do you call that, there is certain nature to his films that he doesn't like. He's very cool about many things that other people, other filmmakers or people might worry too much about. Like he's very cool about certain things. So yeah, so I think I've said 4 or 5 filmmakers now, and that's enough for now. Yeah.
Bellatar, sir, I've heard like you love Bellatar as
Oh yeah, of course, of course. I love his films. I love Bellatar's films. Yeah, and I that's one of the reasons I tried to do more black and white films. I still go back to black and white sometimes because I love the way he uses the visuals and the that lingering quality. It lets you think while you are watching the film, and and it becomes a personal journey. The watching of the film becomes very personal, and it is the filmmaker is not dictating you too much, or you will have your own thoughts about this film, and every time you watch the film it becomes a different experience. Like I watched Touring Horse like maybe 5 or 6 times, and every time it has been a different film. So yeah, so all this, yeah.
so currently are you writing something or doing any future project?
Yeah, I am working on something, but it is a longer process, and I'm also trying to do something that I haven't tried before. So it is, I can't reveal too much about it, unfortunately, right now, but because I don't even have, it's very early stages. I don't even have a producer or anything right now. So I'm just writing right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to assist you, like how they can approach you?
Yeah, so many different people do get in touch with me, and yeah, because see, in Kerala the industry itself is big. If you look at just the industry, it is very active because there are more than 200 films made every year. So there are so many film aspirants, and so many people do reach out to me, but um, yeah, from outside Kerala also. But definitely, what one thing I tell them is that like, please let us stay in touch, and when I make a film or when I am actually into the process, I can probably share on the social media or somewhere that like I'm looking for people in my team, and then probably can have a interview, or like shortlist them somehow, and have some process. And but I like, again, I don't want too many people, so it's not like, and I have already people whom I have, like, over the years I have worked with, and who are really good with the stuff that I have been doing, and who really understands what I need. So it is all about minimizing the number of crew members, and making the process simpler, keeping it simple, rather than, it's not about like having a 100 people crew or anything like that. I'm trying to keep it simpler.
So you prefer like from film school, or if they haven't been to film school, it's like okay.
No, it's nothing like that. But like, I would try to understand what their experience is like, and if some experience would definitely help in the journey. And again, the passion also. I can tell you one instant when I actually went against all my preconceived notions. Also, once there was this, um, while making 1956 Central Travancore, I already had a crew and everything. At that time, one guy reached out to me, and he said that he's available. He would really like to uh, be part of the team and everything. And I, at that point, I couldn't really accommodate another person. But like, I was in the pre-production, and I didn't have anyone else to help me at that time, so I thought maybe he can be of assistance during the pre-production. So I just asked him to help me with some of the auditions and stuff, and I really liked the way the how his attitude was, and how he was very passionate about whatever he was doing, and the dedication and everything. So um and then like, I decided to keep him, and then he became one of the biggest assets the entire production had. And probably like, in terms of the amount of work that was done, he did probably more than I did. Even though like, like, I conceived things and he executed it. Like, it was like that. So yeah, so sometimes things happen. Everything is not in our control. But as a rule of thumb, I wouldn't say that like, there are not many. Um, it's not a viable job option or anything. So there are not many positions available during one film. Yeah.
So any advice if somebody wants to become a filmmaker, and advice would you give?
Watch as many films as you can, and and be open to change your view about films, rather than being judgmental and stuff. That happens to me too. Like, like, nobody is perfect, so we all make mistakes. But uh over time, like, we can have our own taste, and we have our own conviction, and we can aim to make the kind of films that we want to see. And be honest with the craft, and don't try to impress anybody else. Don't try to please someone else with something that you are not convinced in. Being honest is very important. Like, being honest to what you make. It may be, like, after 5 years you may hate it. Doesn't matter. But while you are making it, like, be completely honest towards it.
Sir, thank you so much, sir, for joining.
No,
And
no, thank you.
so,
Thank you for your time.
I know for a fact that family had a great festival rep, and I know that it will have a great theater run as well, sir.
Yeah,
And
pleasure. Thank
you are one of our best filmmakers, sir. And I
you.
know.
That's it's too much of
No,
a
seriously,
compliment, but thank you so
seriously,
much.
sir. So
Yeah.
thank you, sir. Thank you for joining, sir.